So you in this field for money? Child, I'm here to tell you, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. But I'm going to show y'all somewhere in this video what I make or made on my first PsychNP contract. Stay tuned. I want you around. Every good therapist has a therapist. So I wanted to say that because in this field, you have to take care of yourself. This is not something that you want to do for money. I genuinely love mental health. I've always loved mental health. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I didn't go to school to be a psychiatrist because life was lifing and I was like, med school, I don't have time. So I went to be an RN, and then full circle because, you know, God's grace and mercy, I'm here doing mental health nurse practitioner. The same thing, you know, without going to med school. So if you in this field for money, I have to say, money is there, right? But post-pandemic, it has changed a lot. And everybody is going to school or returning to school to be a mental health nurse practitioner because they're motivated by money, which is the same thing is happening in nursing. So many people during the pandemic, they saw us making $10,000 a week and everybody went to nursing school. And guess what? Those same people in the nursing groups, they hate nursing because the part that nobody told y'all about, yeah, we got the nice cars and we bought the houses and we had all this stuff going on. Y'all see the lifestyle that comes with the money, but nobody talks about being in the paint in that hospital, the politics in the hospital. Being a bedside nurse is a difficult career. It's rewarding, but difficult. You're literally responsible for somebody's life as a nurse. The doctors come in, spend about 5 or 10 minutes, if that. 10 minutes might be a stretch, talking to the patient. They go put orders in. You're there carrying out orders all day. You're there, you know, I'm an ICU nurse, so I'm gonna speak from that point. You're there chasing blood pressures. And when I say chasing blood pressures, that means that patients are on drips. Their blood pressures are going up and down. You're trying to titrate the drips to get them at something that's normal for them based on whatever situation they in. And you're just running all day. People pooping, you gotta, you know, change them. It's a lot. It is a lot to do. And nobody talks about that part of nursing. The same thing is happening with the mental health nurse practitioner. Everybody looking at dollars and nobody's thinking like, do I really want to sit down and listen to somebody talk about how they were raped as a 9-year-old by their dad, and they were raped from the time they were 9 years old to the time they were 16 years old, and then their cousins saw that the dad was raping them and getting away with it, so the cousin did it too. Like, this is the stuff that you hear that happens between family units. Can you really sit there and listen to that and have, you know, the empathy and the sympathy that you need and not judge them because they done turned into a murderer, you know, or they turned around and did what was done to them because incest in some families is the norm and they don't know it's the norm, so they do it to somebody else because it was done to them. It's just a cycle of trauma and trauma. Can you sit there and truly like have the compassion to understand that hurt people, you know, and like, listen, like, it's a lot. It is really a lot. And I'm in a jail setting right now, so that's why I use, you know, listening to murderers or whatever. You probably won't do that unless you work in a jail. But in the outpatient setting, you know, listening to people who are feeling suicidal, people who have been abused. They didn't turn out like the people who end up in jail, but nevertheless, they're still suffering a lot of trauma. You got to listen to those stories. You got to hear them out. And it's a lot. What if you, somebody who been through those things or know somebody, and then it hits you differently? So this is what I'm saying. Like, if you in this field because you truly care about helping people heal from their trauma, their pain, from opiate abuse, all of these things, then this is the right field for you, and you can make money in it and be happy at the same time. But if you're in it for the money, you're going to be miserable if you're not, if you just here for the money. That's my opinion. Now, what I wanted to say is about the job market out here, because I get a lot of people that DM me and asking me about, saying it's hard for them to find jobs and things like that. And the reason why that I think that, and I'm looking at my phone because I'm going to look to some screenshots that I found off of Indeed to talk about the money. So there's a few companies out there that you may see something like, up to $206 an hour. So if you somebody that like in school or whatever, you like, oh, I can't wait to be a mental health nurse practitioner so I can make that money, or I'm going to go into that field because they making all that money, but you don't know what these companies are. So these companies that are offering this type of money, they are companies that basically you set up your own company. And you have to do the marketing. They do a little marketing, but from what I've understood about it is that sometimes you don't get a lot of clients from the marketing they're doing. So it's like having your own practice, but these companies do the billing for you, and they do the billing, the insurance credentialing and things like that for you, but it's like your own company. So it's like being a private owner and you having this company do all the things for you, but you got to find your own patients and stuff like that. They're still getting a portion of the money. They still have to make their money. So if they paying you $206 an hour, then you got to imagine what they getting paid, right? So that's one type of job offer you'll see out there. Now this one, Miami is the worst. I don't know if it's the worst, but it's got to be one of the worst paying cities. Not Miami, sorry. Florida has to be one of the worst paying states for healthcare, which is why I was only a nurse here 2 years. In 2015, I was out the door. I went to be a travel nurse in 2015 because it just didn't make sense to me. But here's the PMHP position in Florida. They're offering $65 an hour, anywhere between $65 and $68 an hour. Now, if you somebody who watching this and you're not in the field or whatever, and you just like to follow me, you probably be saying that's a good amount of money, but it's not. PMHPs are bringing in companies so much money. I read in one of the nurse practitioner groups that there's this lady looked at the payout that the company got. She brought the company in something like maybe $40,000 in 1 month, and she probably got maybe like $2,000 or $3,000 of it. These companies. So what happened during the pandemic is business owners who have nothing to do with healthcare, they knew that the mental health of the people was going down the drain real fast, because the pandemic was something that none of us had ever seen before, unless you were born in like 1903 or something. And we hadn't seen it before. We was all like, what is this? Like, if we wasn't led by depression, anxiety, we were like scared, like everything that was going on. You can't do that in 30 minutes, but that was the expectation they had. They were like mental health chop shops. But they didn't want to pay, they don't want to, and they didn't want to pay money. Because they're thinking from the business mindset, they're pocketing all the money. And they trying to pay the nurse practitioner $65 while they making like maybe $200 and giving you $65 off of that. Or no, not even. They probably making $265 to be example and giving you $65 and they keep it $200. So that ain't gonna work. So what's happening is that I don't want to deter anybody from coming into the field. I'm just trying to give you a real picture, because we need you here if you really want to be here, right? Because there's still opportunity here. And let me tell you, just because the pandemic over, that don't mean the mental health is over. Suicide is like up. People are like, it's real bad out here. But I think that it's not being displayed as much as it should, to let people know what's really going on out here. And so if you're thinking like, okay, well, I could just work remote, and I'm licensed in Florida, Georgia, New York, California, New Hampshire. I'm in the process of Massachusetts, because Massachusetts is like the mental health hub. They are really progressive in mental health. Stahl, like Carlisle, all those people work in those hospitals in Massachusetts. I think Stahl now works in LA at a prison in LA, but they all like went to school and worked in those hospitals out there. So it's like a lot of jobs out there in Massachusetts for mental health professionals, and I think they pay well, better than most states. So a new job thing that you're seeing out there is remote work. So the remote work is like at one time it was like you could work, I'm in Florida, I could work in California remotely, through these companies. But what I'm now seeing is that the remote work, like this position right here, it pays anywhere between $130,000 and $175,000 a year, right? Which is good for a W-2. So, but this one is in LA, and it's remote, but they want you to live in California. So that don't work for me, because I don't live in California. I could do the job, but I don't live in California. And I'm seeing that more and more with the remote positions. They want you to live in the state. I guess that's in case they have meetings or whatever, that you can make it to the state. I saw that in Colorado too. I saw a really nice position in Colorado, and I was like, oh, let me apply. And then I read the description, and it said they want you to live in Colorado. It's remote work, but they want you to live in Colorado. So that crosses me out again too, right? The way that, from what I'm seeing, and is that to make money in this, you have to either be a travel psych NP, or you got to go into private practice. I'm going into private practice. I'm revamping everything, the website. I'm doing insurance credentialing. That's where I'm at now with that. I'm going into private practice because I want the freedom. I want to be able to be in Barcelona seeing patients, here in Florida or wherever I'm going to be seeing them at. I'm looking for the freedom of time and the financial freedom, and that comes through private practice. A girl in the Facebook group the other day said that she's making $40,000 a month. $40,000 a month with her private practice. She is overwhelmed though, because guess what? She's doing it by herself. And that's why she ended up posting in the group, asking people like, what do you guys do? So overall, what I want you all to know is that the field could be very lucrative if you're coming into it, but I think that you're going to have to go into private practice, or you're going to have to go into be a travel NP. Now, I'm going to show you guys my check stubs. I'm putting y'all in my business today. And it's to motivate you, right? But at the same time, keep in mind that these are 1099 check stubs, which means, if you don't know, is that I get all the money and I pay the taxes later. Now, what I do is I have a LLC. I contract myself out to the agencies. So when these agencies come, like when I apply for an agency, they don't pay Angel, they pay my LLC. And because I do it that way, I'm able to write off stuff on my travel under the LLC. Flights, gas, things like that, to give me a tax break, and then I pay myself through a payroll service. Listen, I learned all that stuff. Don't DM me, because I don't know for real. Like, I learned all that stuff and applied the stuff as I learned it. I am not a CPA. A CPA could probably help you, but I'm set up properly. But I just don't want to be giving anybody any advice on that. But I'm just telling you, that's how I do my stuff. So create your LLC the moment you come into this field. And a lot of these outpatient companies, they are 1099. If you look on Indeed as Psych NP contracts, a lot of it is 1099. Let them pay your LLC, and you could do some tax write-offs when you're on your travel assignments, or when you're working remote, or however you're doing it. So, but yeah, talk to a CPA about that. But so when you see these numbers are untaxed money that I'm going to show you. And Don't be, if you're trying to do the math from a percentage of saying, well, if you making this amount on 1099, then after taxes or whatever, you only making this, because Florida is I don't pay taxes in Florida, and my last contract, it was a state that didn't pay taxes, either state taxes, I should say. We pay federal, Medicare, but the two states, my primary state I live in and the state my contract was in, we don't pay state taxes. So I kind of won right on that. But I ran everything through the business, so I get a lot of tax breaks that way. So yeah, let me show you guys what some of my check stubs look like. And hopefully you're still motivated to be in this field. It definitely wasn't to discourage you. Okay, so here is a paycheck stub, and this is for, I believe it's one week, and it is for $4,920. My hourly rate here was $102 an hour. I did call, so when you do call, it's from the time you get off of work, which is I got off anywhere between 3:30 and 5 o'clock, and then I will be on call until the next morning at 7. And it's a flat rate of $300. If I had to go in, I would get paid more, um, time and a half for the time that I actually had to go in. So typically, this call was easy. I would just be on call, and they would be calling in from people who coming into the prison, and those people, they needed some medications till the next day till they saw an actual provider. So that was that. And then it's regular time again. And then my overtime rate was $135 an hour. I had 4 hours of overtime on that day. And then this was a day when I had like 5 hours. So what would end up happening is that if I had like a lot of hours early in the week, see, like this was almost a 10-hour shift. Then on Friday, I would leave a little early to cut back on the overtime, that I was picking up from other days. So that's one check in April. This is another check that was the following week, and it's the same as $5,595. I did one day of call there. The rate is still the same. So that's 2 weeks at 4,900. I'm just rounding here, and then close 5,500. And then this one was a check for $6,292. But you see here, I did call 3 days that week. I did the March 21st, 25th, and 26th. So that's an extra $900 that I had on this paycheck in total from doing call. Like, we were fighting over call because, honey, everybody, it was like easy. So we was fighting over call. But so these checks were from the month of April on my last contract, and this was 3 weeks. So let me see. I ain't no mathematician, but let's see what it was. I'm just gonna do some rounding. 4,900 plus 5,500 plus 6,300. So in 3 weeks, I had made $16,700 on, and that wasn't even for the month because, like I said, that was 3 weeks. So I had one more week to get paid in that contract, and this money was all. It was 1099. It was all mine. I didn't have to pay my housing. I stayed in the Marriott Residence Inn on this contract, and I had a rental car that was paid for by the company. So yeah, that was, so probably for the month of April, I probably ended up with maybe like $23,000 for the month. And yeah, that's not bad, right? I don't know. What do y'all think on the 1099? And again, they paid my LLC. and I got some tax write-offs from it. So yeah, that's that. What do you guys think? You know, a lot of people go into NP because they want to, be home. They don't want to be away from family. They did travel RN and they're trying to make the same money at home. And now what I will say about I made a lot of money as a travel nurse pre-pandemic. I was pulling in, depending on how many days I worked a week, but I made sure I usually always have 2 days off a week. So on any given 5-day work week, I was making about $5,500 a week since like pre-pandemic. I had a per diem and I had a contract out in California. So, but I have to say the quality of work is different. People like to say, oh, as a nurse practitioner, I make more money or I can make the same money as a nurse. The quality of work is different. Like this pain here, I know a lot of nurses have this shoulder pain here. I know a lot of nurses that hurt their backs. Like the quality of work is different. And you making the money too, depending on what you do. So because I'm not traveling right now, the goal is like, how could you make the same money or decent money, give yourself some financial freedom, and still be in this career field? And for me, it's private practice. So I plan on taking y'all on my private practice journey with me. But that's the route I'm taking because I want the money, I want the freedom, I want all of those things. And depending on what you're in this field for, but I'm here to tell you, if it's for money, you probably gonna have to move to Cali, Colorado, New York. Like those are states that I see. Washington offering like high pay, like salaries just to, work in those states. If not, you're gonna have to do travel or go into private practice, because these companies, they're not healthcare professionals and they want the money and they just want to pay you pennies on a dollar. And that don't work for me because I like my money. So, and I just want to tell y'all FNPs too, like a lot of y'all running a site, but I got a friend who's killing it in FNP, but she's traveling. Let me tell you what. So right now she works in Vermont. She got like a 7 on, 7 off in Vermont as a hospitalist. She be doing call. Like the girl is making a killing. And then she was just in Minnesota at a hospital in Minnesota. She was there for like 6 or 7 months. She's doing her New York license because she got some offers in New York. She like all over the place as a FNP making money. And she's not acute, like she's a FNP doing hospitalist work. And she making just as much as like I'm making as a travel psych NP. Y'all got to get resourceful and start looking, and like it's money out here to be made, but it ain't going to fall in your lap. And if you have children, a husband or a family or whatever the case may be, and traveling is not an option for you, I suggest you go into private practice. I think the pandemic has set nurse practitioners up and some doctors, because I know some doctors who didn't want to get the jab and they went into private practice and they're excelling. They're doing better than they were doing working in a hospital. And the best part about it, you control your hours, your time, your politics that you create, not politics coming from people who don't work at the bedside, whatever the case may be. So I think that as a nurse practitioner, the opportunities is there for us to make a lot of money and have our freedom to be with our families as well. But you got to do the work. Like, some of y'all scared to go to private practice because it's a lot of work. Everybody not meant to be a boss. I understand that. Some people are meant to be workers. And if that's you, then maybe you need to be a travel NP, or just find a job that, if it's not all about the money, that you're making a decent amount of money and you got your benefits and you got all those things and you happy. Like, happiness is important in the healthcare field, because at the end of the day, everything I feel like falls on healthcare. No matter what's going on in this world, healthcare workers are like hurricanes, natural disasters, mass shootings. Everything just falls in healthcare. So somewhere on the spectrum, it falls on you, depending on what your job is. So Find what makes you happy and that you could do a long time. But running into fields because you motivated by money, you're going to do a quick U-turn and be right back at the bedside, which is fine. Like, I miss bedside, but it's not my purpose. You know what I mean? So I wanted to just give y'all a little taste of what can be made. And you just got to set your business up right. And you got to do right by your money. If y'all have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll answer as much as I can. But I'm on another contract and I'm making more than I was making on that contract that you just saw. But I ain't got no money. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications. It's Angel the PsychiatricNP. Ciao.